Hello everyone. Let's review shlokas 41 and 42 in Lalita Sahasranamam. Bhavānī bhāvanāgamyā bhavāraṇya kuṭhārikā bhadrapriyā bhadramūrthir bhaktasoubhāgya dāyinī bhaktipriyā bhaktigamyā bhaktivaśyā bhayāpahā śāmbhavī śāradārādhyā śarvāṇī śarmadāyinī. Let's take a look at the meanings. Bhavānī, it can be looked at in a few different ways. Bhava is Shiva. So Bhavānī is Shiva's wife. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is Bhava is being. You can think of it as a living being or human being. Ani means one who brings over or brought over. So if you recall the tattva, according to tattva, this entire universe is manifestation of one ultimate reality. That ultimate reality has two complementary aspects. One is Shiva and another is Shakti. So when Shiva and Shakti are facing each other, no creation happens. The universe does not manifest. When Shakti turns away from Shiva, she manifests the universe. That's why we also call her as a Shri Mata. She is the creator of this universe. So as the creator of universe, she is the giver of life. That's why she is Bhavānī. Bhavānāgamyā. Bhavana means contemplation or meditation. Agamya means attained. She is someone who can be attained through contemplation or meditation or attitude. Bhavāraṇya kuṭhārikā. Bhava here means the samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Aranyam is a jungle. Kuṭhārikā means cutting down, one who cuts down. So she is someone who cuts down the dense forest of samsara. That's what this means. So the forest has a lot of trees, and for someone who's trying to make their way, the trees come in the way and they could block their path. Like that, for someone who's trying to make their way towards liberation and trying to attain Lalita, the desires come in the way. So the trees are compared to desires, and the desires could lead us to different actions and therefore take us in a different path. So when we worship Lalita, she cuts down all these desires. And if you look at desires, even though we cut down one desire, it could grow back again. That's why it's compared to the tree, where it has a root. Unless it is completely uprooted, it will keep springing up again and again. So when we worship Lalita, she will cut down all our desires and make sure that we are able to progress in the path of liberation or oneness with her. Bhadrapriyā. Bhadra means auspiciousness. Priya means she delights in auspiciousness. Bhadramūrthir. Bhadramūrthir, she is the embodiment of auspiciousness. Bhaktasoubhāgya dāyinī. Saubhagyam means prosperity, welfare, well-being. Bhaktasoubhāgya dāyinī is one who gives all prosperity to her devotees. So this entire line is all about Devi's auspiciousness and how she can be attained. Bhaktipriyā. Bhakti is devotion, this all-consuming love towards Lalita. Bhaktipriyā, she delights in that devotion or love towards her. Bhaktigamyā, she is someone who can be attained by bhakti. Bhaktivaśyā, she is someone who can be won over by bhakti. This is the ultimate reality, and that ultimate reality can be won over, made yours through bhakti. So bhakti is a very, very important emotion in sadhana, and that's what helps the person advance in their sadhana and feel this oneness or appreciate the essence of Lalita. And as you can see, she is bhavānāgamyā or bhaktigamyā. Bhavana was contemplation. She can be attained through contemplation or she can be attained through bhakti. So both jnana marga and bhakti marga both work. But bhakti marga is usually easy for normal human beings to follow. Bhayāpahā. Bhaya means fear. Apaha means destroying. So she is someone who dispels all our fears. And the more bhakti we have towards Lalita, sometimes the fears themselves won't arise in us, because we will think that there is Lalita. No matter what happens, Lalita will take care of it and she will stand by me, and therefore worry doesn't rise, and therefore fear also doesn't rise. So bhakti helps with that dispelling of fear, and that's how by worshipping Lalita we can dispel all our fears, and Lalita dispels all those fears in us. Śāmbhavī, this can also be looked at in multiple ways. Shambhu is Shiva and she is wife of Shiva, so she is Śāmbhavī. Or Śāmbhavī is one who likes Shiva or one who is liked by Shiva, so in that way also she is Śāmbhavī. Another thing that is unique to Lalita is that Śāmbhavī is also considered as the Sushumana Nadi. And when we spoke about Kundalini, we said there is Kundalini energy that's in the Muladhara chakra, and then it's rising towards the crown, and the concept is that there is Shiva at the end of the Sushumna Nadi, other end of the Sushumna Nadi. So Śāmbhavī is Sushumana Nadi that leads to Shiva. So Śāmbhavī is one who leads to Shiva. Another way to look at it is Sham means happiness, Bhavi means manifesting. So she is someone who can manifest happiness for us. Therefore, she is Śāmbhavī. śāradārādhyā. Śārada is goddess Saraswati, who is the goddess of all languages. So she is someone who is worshipped by Saraswati, because Saraswati creates all these words that allow us to describe this ultimate reality which cannot be described. So she is worshipped by Saraswati, or she is worshipped by the words given by Saraswati. śarvāṇī. śarvāṇī is wife of Śarva. Śarva is Siva. So śarvāṇī is wife of Sarva. If you want to look at it as Sarvāṇī, means Sarva is all, Ani means bestower. So she is someone who creates everything. śarmadāyinī. Śarma again is happiness. Dāyinī means giver. She is someone who gives happiness. Let's explore this emotion called bhakti a little bit more, and we can understand it with a story. Once there was a chief of a tribe who didn't have kids for a very long time, no children for a very long time, and he prayed to God consistently, he and his wife, and finally they were blessed with a son, and they named him Tinnan. Tinnan grew up to be a very good person. He was very strong. He was going to be the next chief, therefore he was very skilled in everything that the chief should know, including hunting, which was the main way in which they got food for their community. So he was liked by all, and he was a good leader also. So Tindan, along with the fellow tribe members, went on a hunting, and that particular day they were hunting for a wild boar, which was especially very tricky. Wild boars can be very unpredictable. So finally, with a lot of hard work, Tinnan and his friends were able to kill the wild boar. Tinnan is the strongest of them all, so Tinnan carried the boar, and they were all making their way towards their home. At that point, Tinnan lost his way. Somehow all the other people went in one direction, and he got lost, and he came across a temple, and in the temple was a beautiful Shivalinga. And as soon as Tinnan saw the Shivalinga, there was this overwhelming emotion for him. He immediately felt like he had to give something to the Shivalinga. All he had was the wild boar. So he quickly placed the wild boar on the floor, and then he used his knife to cut pieces. He tasted which pieces were tasty, and then he gave that to Shiva, which Shiva ate. And generally, you all know that it is not okay to offer flesh, or there is a certain shastra and there is a purity that's maintained in a temple, so this was not okay. And then Tinnan found his way and went back home. But after he went back home, he kept thinking about this Shivalinga, and it was so captivating for him. So he wanted to see the Shivalinga again. So next day, he got something else, a deer this time, and he was making his way towards the temple now. And he thought, oh, yesterday I saw that there were lots of leaves and flowers on the linga. and there was lots of things that were around. I think we should give the linga a good bath. And because he is a tribe member, he doesn't know the right way to worship Shiva. So what he thought was I didn't have any container to hold the water. So he went to a nearby stream and carried the water in his mouth. And then he was making his way and he saw a beautiful flower and he thought this might be very good. So he took the flower also and he had the deer that he was going to offer to Shiva today. And he went to the temple and he he did not have anything to clear the place. So he used his slippers and cleared the whole thing, including the flower on Shivalinga. And then he spit out the water from his mouth. And then he placed the flower that he had kept for safekeeping in his hair, and he put that flower onto the Shivalinga, and then he cut out the best pieces of the deer and he tested them, and then whatever tasted good he offered it to Shiva. So then he went back home. So this was happening for 2 or 3 days. In the meantime, there is a priest who takes care of this temple. So first day itself, when Tinnan offered this, the priest came back the next morning and he saw that there was all this boar flesh out there, which was shocking for him. But since the temple was closer to the forest, he thought maybe some animal did that and he cleaned it and went. And then he realized every day he came back, he was seeing this again and again. He was shocked. He was very worried. Who's doing this? And this is very insulting to Shiva because by all the worshipping standards, this is not what we do. And the priest was also a good devotee of Shiva. So Shiva appeared in his dream and he said, don't worry, this is done by one of my favorite devotees and he's extremely devoted to me. And the priest just could not believe what kind of devotee will come, and he saw spit and everything. Who would do all of this? And Shiva's calling him a devotee. So Shiva said, if you don't believe, why don't you come tomorrow, hide, and then you can see what kind of a devotee he is. So next day, as usual, Tinnan carried water in his mouth, brought a flower in his hair, brought another animal to offer to Shiva. As usual, came, took his slipper, cleared the places and spit on Shiva, and the priest was beyond shocked. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, and but he kept quiet and watched the whole thing. And then he put the flower from his hair onto Shivalinga, and the priest was shaking his head and saying, oh no, this is not done. And then he started to check the pieces that are tasty, and he offered to Shiva. But on that day, Shiva didn't eat it. So Tinnan was a bit surprised because he's been doing this for 3 or 4 days, and every day Shiva eats it. And then he starts to speak to Shiva and say, why are you not eating today? Are you not well? Is something bothering you? Why are you not eating? And then he notices that one of the eyes of Shiva is bleeding. So now Tinnan is like really distressed, and he tries to take his cloth and then wipe Shiva's eyes. The bleeding stops, but then it resumes again. So now he realizes he has to put some medicine. So he runs into the forest, tries to find some herbs and makes medicine out of it, and then puts it on Shiva's eyes. And then the bleeding stops. But then after some time, it starts to come again. Now, Tinnan doesn't know what to do. He has tried everything that he can. And then he realizes something is wrong with Shiva's eyes. But if he gets new eyes, then everything will become good. So what to do? Immediately, he pokes out his eyes with his bow and with his arrow. He pokes out his eyes and he puts it on Shiva. The priest who's watching now is completely stunned. Everybody asks for things from Shiva. But here is one person who just gave his one eye to Shiva. And then the bleeding stopped. And so now he is very happy that Shiva's bleeding stopped, and it didn't matter that his eyes were bleeding now or he was in pain, but what mattered to him was that Shiva's bleeding had stopped. So he was very happy. He said, okay, now that your eyes have stopped bleeding, why don't you eat some? And then Shiva was not done. He really had to show to the world what kind of a devotee this person was. So now the other eye for Shiva started bleeding. So this time, Tinnan didn't even think twice. He didn't have to run, wipe with the cloth or go find medicine, etc. Now he knows clearly if he keeps his eye for Shiva, then the bleeding will stop. So without even thinking, he got ready to poke out his next eye also. But one problem is already he has put one eye. If he takes the next eye out, he won't know where to place the next eye. So what he did is he took his leg and he placed it in Shiva's eye. So it will be the marker for him. So when he pokes his eye out, he'll know where to put it back. So he placed his leg and then he started to poke the second eye also. Now the priest is completely stunned, and Shiva is extremely moved by the devotion shown by Tinnan. So Shiva comes in person and he tells him to stop. He stops him from taking the other eye out. So, and then he grants him moksha, and Tinnan joins Shiva in Kailasa within 7 days of getting to know Shiva. So, the Tinnan is also called as Kannappa Nayanar, and he's one of the Nayanmars, and he is a prime example of devotion. Generally, when you think about devotion, we all think about what God can give us. But devotion is this all-consuming love, where in this particular case, Tinnan had this emotion and he wanted for Shiva to be happy, for Shiva to be pain-free. So that is what devotion is. It's not about what God can do for us. It is the love we show towards God and not expecting anything from God. So that is the devotion that is being talked about. And if we display this kind of devotion and looking at Tinnan's story, Tinnan is a tribe member. He did not know the right ways to worship Shiva. In fact, he was doing things like spitting on the god or giving a flower that was already put in your hair. These are all no-nos. But God did not look for all of that. What God saw was the intent with which that was offered, and the intent was complete love, and that Shiva accepted. And that is the same thing. That's why she is also bhaktivaśyā. If we give that true love to her, she will accept, and all the God looks for is that true love. And there are lots of stories in all our epics. If you think about Krishna, he was born as a son of Yashoda, right? And he was not even born to Yashoda. Yashoda had the good fortune to raise Krishna. And as a young child, he allowed her to tie him to the grindstone. And she was scolding him because he was messing with all the people in the Ayarpadi. And there is even a song that says, Enna tavam seidane Yashoda. It's a Tamil song. And it says, Brahmanam Indranum manadil puramai kolla kannanai uralil katti vaipotti kenja veitai. So it seems that all the gods like Brahma and Indra are jealous of Yashoda, because this is this ultimate reality that does not that cannot be contained, and no one person can hold it all. Yet that ultimate reality was folding its hands and running after mom, saying, Mom, please let me out, please don't tie me. But he got a time out because he didn't behave. So that is the kind of fortune that God gives. That ultimate reality cannot be contained, cannot be restricted by anything, but bhakti can win over. Very similar with Hanuman in Ramayana. If you look at all through Ramayana, Hanuman calls himself Rama Bhakta, yet if you see in very important instances, it was Hanuman who came to the aid of Rama. It was not that Rama gave anything to Hanuman. Of course, Hanuman did not even expect it. All he wanted is the Ramanama. All he wanted was the devotion. And that's why it said that at the end of Ramayana, when Rama decided to go back to Vaikuntham, he asked Hanuman, he said, why don't you come with me? I am now very attached to you. I'll miss you if you're not there. So you also come with me to Vaikuntham. So then Hanuman asked Rama, if I go to Vaikuntham, what will people address you as? And he said, they will all know me as Vishnu. He said, will anyone know about Rama? He said, no, nobody will know about Rama. Then he said, no, in the earth, everybody will know about Rama. Wherever there is Rama Nama, that's where I will be. So I don't want to come to Vaikuntha. And you can imagine that Vaikuntham is what everybody wants. Everybody wants to permanently be there, right? So Narayana means Nara Ayana. So Narayana. So the human being's ultimate abode is Narayana. And that Narayana said, come and stay with me. He said, I would stay with the Ramanama, because that's how much there is bhakti. So that's why Hanuman is the greatest bhakta. So all through our epics, you can see the importance of bhakti and how that bhakti allows for oneness with that ultimate reality. And in fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna goes as far as to say that whoever worships him with devotion and completely surrenders to him, he will take care of everything for them. That is a big undertaking that Krishna has provided in Bhagavad Gita. Ananyas chintayanto yo mam paryupasite tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Vahamyaham means I will carry. What will I do? What will I take responsibility for? Yogam and kshemam. Yogam means attaining new things. Kshemam means preserving all the good things. So he says, if anyone is ananyas chintayanto, without any other thought, 100% devotion to me, completely engaged with me, for all of those people, I will take care of ensuring that they attain oneness as well as making sure they get worldly enjoyment by the Kshemam. So I will take care of it. So bhakti is such an important devotion, important emotion, and devotion is an easy means to attain that oneness with the ultimate reality, which is also the path that Lalita Sahasranamam shows us. Thank you, everyone.